We're back, baby. It's the Horns Up Talkin Texas podcast. Fisher DeSopoulos, DJ, Nikki, Snacks, Kreider. Gentlemen, good to see you guys.
Good to see you.
Shout out to Texas Sports Unfiltered. We're here now. Good to see you guys watching as well.
I feel like we are due for a little introduction because we have a new audience.
Yeah, go for it, man.
So the three of us are all Texas grads. I was a walk-on to the Texas football team under Coach Charlie Strong. The three of us also host the Charity Stripe podcast. So if you've referred to us saying the Charity Stripe, that is our overarching podcast that we have started over 6 years ago, just all-encompassing sports show. We've had Matthew McConaughey on. We just had Sebastian Maniscalco on. We've had a bunch of sports legends, Marshall Faulk, Bill Walton, Austin Eckler. The list goes on. So if you want your daily dose of sports talk outside of Texas sports, the Charity Stripe is also a place for you. But we're all actors living in LA. I make music myself. So if you ever refer to myself as DJ Nicky Snacks, that is my DJ name. Josh always likes to intro me as DJ Nicky Snacks. Tass is an actor. Josh is an actor. We also all work for the Believe Network, which is the host of Horns Up Talkin Texas and the Charity Stripe. Josh is solo dolo now. He was a producer there, and Tass is a producer. So that's a nice little introduction just about us. I know that we're new faces, so I wanted to give you guys the tea on who we are.
Excellent. And there's
Have I missed anything?
You did miss one big piece of the show, I think, that they haven't seen yet.
Yeah. So our fourth member of the show joins in once a week. You know him as Longhorn legend Quan Cosby. So he should be joining us this week.
Yes, he will be.
You know him as number 6.
Yeah, and you'll get to know him. What's going on, gents?
Block on Lindy Holmes.
What's up, gents? Yeah, that's a great introduction for those now listening to us in Texas Sports Unfiltered. So it's good to see you guys, and now you'll get to know us a bit more as we come to you daily. I think it's at 5:45 CT PM, which is 3:45 on the West Coast, and now that I'm East Coast, that's 6:45. Great time to tune in for us to talk about Texas football, basketball, and all things Texas Longhorns. Let's start in a little recruiting news, a little recruiting taste. We hit another home run. I mean, when we recorded our show yesterday, we picked up XF, which you know he's going to be good, that we're already calling him that. Safety, he was hard to commit to the Florida Gators. Xavier Filsaime, he is now with us as a member of the Texas Longhorns, which is unbelievably exciting. The witching hour.
Counting days tomorrow.
Yep. Yeah, it's a massive, last second pull from Sark, who we were itching for him for a long time. So it's great to bring him in and continue to dominate. And Sark, was tweeting about it. Gideon was tweeting about it. Like, our coaches are fired up and they're really pumped to get these guys in the building.
And they went on Instagram Live, them as in Xavier Filsaime, and he was joined by Colin Simmons on his IG Live. And they were just talking up Texas. They were throwing up their horns. They were saying, if you want to win, come to Texas. And then Filsaime asked Colin Simmons, he goes, you gonna enroll early next semester? And he's like, yeah. He goes, all right, I'll see you there.
That's amazing.
We have a record. We're set to have a record in Texas program history of early enrollees for this 2024 class. So I'll read them off to you really quickly. Colin Simmons rounding out number 1. Brandon Baker, Ryan Wingo. Brandon Baker is the offensive tackle, 5-star. Ryan Wingo, 5-star wide receiver. Xavier Filsaime, as we mentioned, 5-star safety. Kobe Black, corner out of Waco. Jarek Gibson, the running back. Always nice to have a nice running back come in the system. We want to keep on building RBU. Wardell Mack, cornerback from Louisiana. Daniel Cruz, interior O-lineman from North Richland Hills. DeAndre Robinson, D lineman out of Orlando, Florida. Zena Umezulu, edge out of Allen. Christian Clark, another running back out of Phoenix, Arizona. Parker Livingston, wide receiver out of Lucas, Texas.
He's swag.
Yep, he is. Jordan Johnson Rubel, safety out of Fort Worth.
Nice.
Jordan Washington, tight end out of Houston. Trey Owens, QB out of Cyprus. And then Alex January, D lineman out of Duncanville. And then they said there's one more possibility that could early enroll, and I think it probably comes down to these next couple of days because timing is tomorrow. Ty Anthony Smith, who is right now verbally committed to Texas A&M. He's a linebacker out of Jasper, Texas. He's got a 75% flip percentage on 3. I mean, we all know, A&M's been in shambles all off season, so it's nice to be the nice little cherry on top.
Yeah, booty station. That's what they are. I mean, I want to say two quick pieces. Trey Owens is a guy from Cyprus who, like you said, quarterback who's a 3-star. He's moved up to a 4-star. He had a really excellent season this year. So, and he is, if you follow him on Twitter, one of the guys that beats the Texas Longhorn drum loudest. So he's vocal. So he's vocal on social media. Alex January, who we mentioned last show, was Colin Simmons' running mate on the defensive line. Not Simmons. Alex January won the 6A Defensive Player of the Year. So, and somebody commented on our show the other day that Byron Murphy's a 3-star, Devondre Sweat was a 3-star. And, some sites have January as a 4-star, some have him as a 3-star. And at the end of the day, it's ultimately how you develop. And he's a big boy. Guys like him, guys like, Cruz, like our interior linemen, like those guys are going to be massive pieces to continue the foundation that this team built. It's not only about the championship for me, for these guys are making it to the playoff, which I saw someone tweet out yesterday. Look at the Texas program. The Texas programs have done. They went to the Elite Eight. They're doing well. They're in the top 25 in hoops. Women's hoops is obviously good again. They won a back-to-back championship in volleyball. We've made the playoffs, won the Big 12 on our last opportunity to do that and have a shot to go to the national championship for the first time in over a decade. But what the foundation of this team built, it's moved away from a couple of guys who are really good and could be pros, a couple of skill players who are flashing and put up big numbers, to real trench work and real serious interior offensive and defensive line work. And I think guys like, January and guys like Cruz, who may not be the highest touted guys, but will come in there and put in the work and have had success in high school and have, a great physical stature. I think those guys are going to be the guys that help carry the torch, I'm hoping, to continue on what this program has built this season.
Well, your point to them all being 3-stars when they entered, right? Byron Murphy, Devondre Sweat. Honestly, like those type of guys that commit to our program, knowing that there are other 5-stars and 4-stars in their class and guys starting ahead of them, they play with a chip on their shoulder. They could have easily gone to a smaller Division I college. They could have gone to Division I AA. They could have, gone to, Tulsa, Toledo, even like a Kansas State, and been, probably the stars there. And they end up working their way and become a star at Texas. I think they play with a little bit of extra intensity and ferocity. So I like when these guys come in here and have to work for their jobs, because at the end of the day, we say it all the time, best player plays. And, it's a mindset sometimes more than the physical aspect of things.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. T, you're muted.
We might have to pull the clip for when we had Matthew McConaughey on our show, and he was talking about, the star doesn't matter. It's about having that 5-star mentality. Because it was a great quote, and obviously it's McConaughey, and talk about beating the Texas drum. There's no one that beats it louder than that guy does. So we'll have to throw that clip in so that whenever we bring in a non-5-star recruit going forward, we can just play that real quick for the
6 stars. I think he said 6-star, right? Is what he said.
That's why we got to pull the clip.
The only thing he says he beats louder than the Texas drum is his chest. That man, he's obviously, such a big proponent. And you know what? Like, you're always proud to be a Texas Longhorn. It's a great school. It's a great university. It's a great city. And I always tell people the most beautiful part about going to college there is you're going to college in a college city. You get the best of both worlds. It is like a college town feel. You get to have the college aspect, but you're also like in full on Austin, Texas, which is a rapidly growing city. And it's a rapidly growing entertainment space, which I think a lot of young individuals in college are gravitating more and more towards, even than when we were there. And they have great programs for that at the university. So it's now, despite being such a great school, all the success we're having in sports, and now mainly football, which is our biggest money driver, no matter how you slice it, it's an even better time to beat that drum if you're a Texas Longhorn fan. So I think it's very exciting. We got, again, like I mentioned, Emery Winston. I believe I mentioned the tight end commit yesterday. It's another big one for Sark. Moore is a guy.
He's a 2025.
Yeah.
So he's the second guy committed in our 2025 class, which is awesome. I mean, to get him early.
Yeah.
It was a great day yesterday. But your point to Austin, it's about time that we're like utilizing and capitalizing on the great city that it is. You know what I mean? Now that there's a professional soccer team, for a long time we were the biggest city in the entire United States without a professional sports team. Now, we're still the biggest city in the United States without a big 3 sports team, baseball, basketball, football, and not even hockey. But I think it's about time that we start utilizing kind of what Austin has to offer with all of the businesses that are popping up, tech companies, headquarters, for Tesla. Formula One is there every year now. We always talk about ACL and how important that is sometimes for recruiting. You know, I mean, when I was down at ACL a couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago now, saw Max Absmus and Brock Cunningham. I mean, like these athletes on their weeks off, like they want to enjoy the city. South by Southwest, like a lot of these kids, you know, they want to continue to build their personal value and their social presence. And being in a city like Austin gives you a lot of opportunity to do things and be exposed to a lot of different avenues outside of sports.
Yeah, a guy like Asmus, we saw him running around with Brock Cunningham, and they were boys, and that's Cunningham's job, is to welcome him to the team, right?
Yeah.
And and it's good to see XF and Simmons. Like, we've seen that, I feel, with other recruits, you know, in past years. We kind of saw it last year and the year before that with like the recruits getting hyped up about coming to UT. But again, it's such a big brand. You have like the symbol, when the symbol's rocking and you get to just whip this out and you get to cook this like wherever, it really means something.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great that we're taking advantage of it. And it's great that, you know, our ambassadors are working well. I mean, we have some of the top, you were telling us before the show started, Nick, some of the top NIL athletes in the world.
Yeah. So this is a pretty interesting graphic that I'm going to pull up right now on the On3 NIL rankings list. So it's basically the value of NIL athletes. And I don't really know how they I think they like pool like social following and stuff, and they put like a numerical value on it. So number one is Bronny James. I don't think anyone has any questions why that is. LeBron James' son. He plays basketball at USC. Number two, Shedeur Sanders, quarterback for Colorado. Number three, Livy Dunn. She's an LSU gymnast. She's dating Paul Skeens, who was drafted by the Pirates. Yeah, by the Pirates. And they look at social following. Like, she's got 12 million followers. Number four is Arch Manning. And, you know, doesn't have nearly the size of the following, but at the end of the day, he's a Manning. You know, he's got his uncles that run the Manning cast. His grandfather's an NFL legend. His father's, you know, in Caesar's Palace commercials all the time. We got 5, Caleb Williams. Number 6, Jaden Daniels. Number 7,
if you don't mind just holding for 2 seconds there, which is, I mean, I know the Manning name is like such a valuable last name, but it's still so like, I don't know if he might have that if he goes to Ohio State, but I definitely think our branding and our value as a university helps amplify that. I mean,
no doubt.
Arch Manning is ahead of Caleb Williams,
who won the Heisman last year.
Won the Heisman last year. He's on TV in commercials. Jaden Daniels just won the Heisman. Travis Hunter has his own podcast, has his own show that people tune into, and he's the best two-way player maybe we've ever seen in college football.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Not to mention, just to throw in there, like Ohio State is the Midwest. You know, it's not the Southeast. It's not the South. His family grew up in the South. He grew up in New Orleans. Like, his grandfather played for the Saints, right? Peyton went to Tennessee. Eli went to Ole Miss. Like, they have their roots in the Southeast. That's where people know them best. So I think just in regards to Arch, and obviously, like, these are conversations that were had 2 years ago during his entire recruitment process, but you can't undervalue how indispensable it was and how indispensable it will be of where our school exists. And we're talking about the city of Austin, but, you know, we're kind of in ways wanting to become the capital of the SEC, as far as, you know, right now you want to take it away from Athens, you want to take it away from Tuscaloosa, right? But Austin, Texas offers a lot of different things that those two cities do not have. And so obviously, you know, those universities, we're talking about the recruiting trail, they're still dominating there, right? But interestingly, before we get through the rest of this list, Georgia, Alabama, Texas, LSU, none of them have hit the transfer portal like a team like Ole Miss, right? Who has 15 new guys coming into their locker room. And you could poo-poo us, I guess, for that, but you could also say, no, we're building it in the right way by bringing in X amount of recruits that we then want to develop, and we'll get those cherries on top to be those transfer guys who are coming in as veterans, as upperclassmen, juniors, and seniors who can really be contributors in whatever the sport is.
You don't need 90 million transfers. Like Ole Miss brought in Spencer Sanders from Oklahoma State last year. You didn't see the field really. Like, and like they're bringing a lot of great guys, but the guys we brought in, like Matthew Golden was really specific. Like, he's a good wide receiver and he's a good return specialist. We needed that to replace Xavier Worthy. We're going to need some help with the safety position because we like to rotate guys and we like having depth there. Makuba is there, and he in 344 coverage snaps, 0 touchdowns. So we're picking in the right guys, and Trey Moore is a really good piece.
Ole Miss with their transfers, I mean, you got to believe that like maybe, you know, a third of those guys are not going to be playing much next year. I mean, there's a lot of guys that came over there, and so they're just trying to stack depth as much as possible. But I mean, I respect what Lane Kiffin's doing. He always dominates the transfer portal. He's done it every single year. But yeah, as we continue to go through this list, Travis Hunter, Bo Nix, Angel Reese, so basketball player out of LSU. I mean, she's probably the most famous women's college hoops player right now. And then Quinn Ewers at number 10.
Wow.
So, I mean, that just shows you right there. We have 2 players. I think we're the, besides Livy Dunn and Angel Reese, we're the, and I guess Colorado and with Travis Hunter and Shedeur, we've got 2 quarterbacks in the top 10 right here in NIL value. So I think that says something about our system and just kind of what our university has been able to bring to the table in terms of NIL. And then down this list a little bit, number 35, this is kind of a wild one, but Sam Hurley, he's a track athlete at the University of Texas. He's the number 35th overall NIL athlete in the NCAA. As you can see, he's got a huge social following on Instagram, on TikTok. So the power of social is huge and key. And I think University of Texas is allowing players to really, grow their brands and help them.
Yeah, you have to, again, you have to jump and roll with the tide or you get hit by it. So I think, UT and Texas and all the coaching staffs and all the things in place, we've managed the wild west, what everyone thought it was of NIL pretty damn well. But yeah, again, like really great day out of Sark and Co. Really, as per usual. And, I think ultimately it's very cool what Ole Miss is doing. And we said in our show the other day, like it'd be great to have Ole Miss back in the saddle and be competitive and get the Grove ignited. And they have great uniforms, great swag. Lane Kiffin's cool, but they still have to deliver on the field. Like A&M brought that recruiting class in and it was amazing, but where are they now? Nowhere, because they didn't deliver on the field. Our recruiting class to me was exciting last year and it's even more exciting this year. And it's getting more and more exciting because we're starting to deliver on the field. We're following through. Like not only are we getting great recruits, but we're actually winning football games and making do with what we're getting versus like, oh, look at this great class we had. Well, you're not in the playoffs. What's the show for it? Like if Ole Miss misses the playoffs, great transfer class, cool, but like that's all you got. You don't got really anything. You don't have the hardware, and you don't have what you need for it.
Yeah, well, the good thing is the college football playoff is extending to 12 teams, right? So who's to say that this year, a team that lost to Georgia and Alabama, if they do the same thing next year while bringing in more talent, why wouldn't they be in the college football playoff, right? So that's part of the reason.
In this year.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, and it's important for us to look forward and know that next season we don't have to be perfect, but we need to be next to perfect if we want to continuously get back to the college football playoff.
Yeah, it's a good point. I don't think it's a good. I think that you're making is like, look, yes, it's 12 teams, and yes, they would have made it this year, but it's not a gimme. Like where there's so much conference realignment, like they're not going to put 9 teams from the SEC in the college football playoff. It's just not going to happen like that.
No, but they might put 4 or 5.
4 or 5, sure, but like if you're putting 4 or 5 teams from the SEC in the college football playoff, you're going to have a competition between Texas, OU, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, Mizzou now, right?
I mean, as it stands right now, and like how the final ranking shaped out in like the current SEC, without Texas and OU, there's 4 teams. It's Bama, Georgia, Mizzou, Ole Miss, and then if you add Texas and Oklahoma, that makes it 6.
Yeah, I just think it's gonna be a little tougher.
And one of those teams probably gets bumped out, right? Whether it's Ole Miss or it's Oklahoma,
right?
One of those teams might not make it.
They still have to
you also imagine that some of these
teams
suffer losses from each other. Yeah,
exactly. Like you're adding an extra SEC game into the mix, so the schedule gets a bit tougher. Yeah, and look, they're gonna take a team from the Big 12. They're gonna take a team from the ACC, ACC, and they're gonna take a team. Like Notre Dame can make it, like whether we like it or not. They've recruited pretty well on the transfer portal. They brought in Riley Leonard, the guy that Tass thought could be the top transfer quarterback. They brought him from Notre Dame. But yeah, other transfer news, Dante Moore, who was a top 5-star from UCLA, pretty interesting.
Yeah.
He's going to Oregon. I guess he's going to back up Dylan Gabriel, learn some more of the ropes over there in Oregon, and then hopefully take the reins from him once he moves on.
Yeah, it's interesting because like they're 2 of the top quarterbacks in this transfer portal. Obviously, Dylan Gabriel out of OU has 1 year left of eligibility, so I imagine he just tries to pull the Bo Nix, build the value up, and go to the draft. Hopefully be a 1st-round draft pick, and then Moore can back him up and then build his value the same way.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's smart at the end of the day, right? Like keep yourself healthy for next year in college, let your body mature a little bit, And then, as we've seen time and time again, Oregon's just able to flourish with their quarterbacks, just the way their system moves.
Yeah, I saw a funny post. It was like Chip Kelly thought he left for greener pastures, but they recovered faster than Chip Kelly did. Like Chip Kelly left them for naught, but like Oregon pieced things together faster than they did, which is definitely pretty interesting. And Dylan Raiola,
yeah, I mean that's the power of, before you get into some Cornhusker talk, that's the power of Eugene. That's the power of Phil Knight and Nike. You know, there's a reason why. Honestly, the biggest head scratcher of those top 10 to me is probably Bo Nix. I know Bo Nix was in the Heisman race, but going into this season, when you think about marketing, you think about social media, like how often was Bo Nix talked about in comparison to guys like Caleb Williams, athletes like Livy Dunn, guys like Arch Manning? Like it wasn't the same conversation. I know he kind of played himself into that. Same with Jaden Daniels. Although, you know, LSU is a college that gets a lot of NIL money. So I wouldn't necessarily be surprised that Jaden Daniels is in that top 6 or wherever he was. But Bo Nix was definitely like the most asterisk looking one in my mind in that top 10.
Yeah, I like that point. London Humphreys is officially with Georgia. To go back to the finals, what's going on? He was from Vanderbilt. He was a top wide receiver. He'll probably replace Ladd McConkey. LT Overton, one of the guys from that famed A&M recruiting class, defensive tackle. He's going to Bama. McCord, we didn't mention this the other day. He's going to Syracuse, and someone was like, is he going to get, you know, Marvin Harrison Jr. to play for his father's alma mater? That's doubtful. He's going to the draft, but I know, just a fun.
It's the DeVito momentum. It's the DeVito momentum.
Yeah. Caden Green, OU to Mizzou. That's a big offensive line move. So that was definitely really interesting to see. USC's losing a couple guys. They're losing Damani Jackson, Tackett Curtis, like the underclassmen who are big recruits.
Malachi Nelson.
They lost Malachi Nelson, who was with Lincoln at OU. He had lost. He wasn't even the backup quarterback. He was the third string. And I think he was, I imagine, a little discouraged when he saw that, like, the rumor to get Will Howard, Cam Ward, like they're going to the transfer portal. So he's putting his name back in the transfer portal, which is super interesting. And I think that pretty much is, I don't think I'm really missing anybody else.
You mentioned the Vandy receiver, but LSU got AJ Swan, who is the Vandy QB, which is interesting because Garrett Nussmeier is presumably supposed to be their starter. So more and more teams, it's a similar thing to Oregon, are going after not only their starting QB in the portal, but also their starting QB for the years to come, which is a risky play for the individual kids themselves.
You need 1 year, man, though. You only need, like Mac Jones, you only needed 1 year. I mean, I thought, you only need 1 year to get done.
It's just, there's no guarantee a lot of times that you're going to be the starter 2 years from now, right? Because competition will change, recruits will be brought in, the portal will look different that next off season. It's just a risky play, I would say, for a guy who doesn't know whether or not he's walking into a starting job.
Yeah, very. But JT Daniels,
the Dylan Raiola thing is pretty interesting.
Weird, crazy. Yeah,
going to Nebraska. I mean, he was committed to Georgia for a while. Then you would think that, you know, the greener pastures for him, or, you know, a team maybe like Ohio State, because they're losing McCord, right? And, you know, we look at all these SEC teams and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, Nebraska is an interesting one, and hopefully it works out. I mean, it'd be cool to see Nebraska get back on the map. And he was the top player in the entire recruiting class this year for 2024. But there's still a couple of names out there. You know, we mentioned Will Howard, Cam Ward, our guy Malik Murphy. Duke is right now the favorite to land him, with Oregon State coming in second. DJ Uiagalelei, rumored to maybe go to Florida State or Louisville, up in the air. So yeah, we'll see how this all shakes out. The longer this like waits, though, you know, the longer that like I haven't seen Malik Murphy commit to a school, the more I'm like, dude, why didn't you just stay for an extra 2 weeks to see if we can, you know, get a ring on your finger and celebrate with us?
Well, I think he'll still get a ring.
No, he'll get a ring, but I mean, like, he won't be on the sideline. He's like,
gone.
What happens if Quinn goes down? You know, he might not get a snap. Like he might never get a chance to ever play in a college football playoff.
At Duke and Louisville, probably not. If that's where he's thinking of going. Yeah, the Dylan Raiola thing is super interesting. I guess like Carson Beck announced he was coming back today, so that's probably why he's jumping ship from Georgia.
He feasibly could be their starter day one for the Cornhuskers. So
probably should be. I mean, look, they were 5-7, but they lost a lot of close games. I mean, again, we've said this time and time again. We know how Matt Rule can return a program. Like he took Baylor from the dead, so I think he can do the same at Nebraska.